Mark, this feels like game one of the wild card matchup between the Padres and the Mets. We just train wrecked and vomited all over ourselves. Pets' heads are falling off. We go offline. Like, this is what we are, the New York Mets.
We were supposed to have a better debut from Max Scherzer as his Mets postseason began, and we did not get it. So very Mets-like. Yes, I agree.
Oh boy,
Back to the world of
we were dipping in cash, trash, and play. Georgia, who you like, expecting the rebound obviously today.
I do. Look, I still think they're the best team in the SEC. Now, when you look at, as far as the price perspective, Alabama at plus money is always going to be enticing, right? Like anytime you see Alabama at a plus price, you better jump on it because it doesn't last long. But still, this is a team in Georgia, I think, that will get right today, figure themselves out, and they'll start to look like the defending national champs again.
Yeah, in terms of that, I mean, I went the other way just with that. I liked where your standpoint was with Georgia. And I do feel like you can't go wrong with either team, right? Georgia and Alabama. Bryce Young, that was a scare for me. I feel like that was a scare when he was in high school. When he played at Mater Dei, he wasn't a big dude, but he played with an offensive line that was 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", that looked like they could play at a Division I college right away. And so for Young, being protected there, he wasn't hit a lot. Durability was never a question there. So going to Alabama, how would that impact his game? And now Arkansas tagged it last week, but obviously questionable today, comes into this contest. If you're Nick Saban, do you feel like you were inclined to play Bryce Young today?
No, I mean, their offense is going to be different with Jalen Milroe as the quarterback. And clearly he took off and ran a lot more than he would throw it last week. Is that a recipe for Alabama to win today against an inept offense like A&M? Yes. Is it good enough for them to cover? How about no? I don't know if Jalen Milroe starts that I would pick them to cover this game. I still think they win. And all of the, summer bluster between Saban and Jimbo Fisher, all that stuff aside, Alabama's just a better football team than they are at this point in time. So, and oh, by the way, and I said this earlier in the week, if Jimbo Fisher was cheating, he sucks at cheating. Because if he was cheating he should have gotten better guys. Guess what? A&M's not very good, at least not on the offensive side of the ball. So maybe he cheated for the defense. He didn't cheat for any offensive players. That's for darn sure.
Perfect segue. Does that mean that you're trashing Texas A&M?
No, I'm going to trash Tennessee. And again, full disclosure, I have a ticket on Tennessee over 7.5 wins, but their pass defense is problematic. Like, Tennessee needs two things to happen this year. They've got to beat Georgia or Alabama. They've got to beat one of those teams to actually consider to have taken that next step. And they have to have Hendon Hooker play his best football the rest of the way out, including a win over Georgia and Bama, for him to really be in the Heisman conversation. Without winning one of those two games, they'll still be an afterthought. They'll be Kentucky. Like, no one thinks Kentucky, as good as they are, is really a threat to win the SEC. Unless Tennessee can beat Georgia or Bama, no one's going to think they're going to be a threat to win the SEC. So I'll trash them, especially with that pass defense, which is got more holes in it than jeans that I have from 12 years ago.
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to go the other way on this one. They've gotten a lot of pub. They're a top 10 team right now, but I'm going to trash Ole Miss. You look at the record, they're 5-0. Now, this is not Matt Corral, and this is not Chad Kelly. This is Jackson Dart. But you look at their schedule, Mark, going into this game. Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Tulsa, and they eked out a victory against Kentucky, 22-19. I mean, this is typical. Yeah, of course. And you look at this, it's like you get buttered up, albeit Alabama might get away with this. Georgia might get away with this in the first couple of weeks as tune-up games to the SEC. But for Ole Miss to come in like this, and Lane Kiffin obviously having these troops high-five powered up and down the field, this is going to be a breath of fresh air. Now, albeit they get Vanderbilt coming up in Auburn, but then they get LSU. And I know you talked about Brian Kelly getting a signature win. How perfect would this be if Ole Miss goes into that game against LSU undefeated, and then LSU beats them pillar to post? But that's what I'm looking at, because I would imagine in a state and age where we're at right now, the SEC getting a lot of the love that it does deserve, that you have Georgia, you have Bama 1 and 2, and then everyone else will be closely under those tiers. I got to imagine there'll be some pretty good money laid on Ole Miss being a favorite against LSU.
I mean, that's a great call in the look-ahead spot for for Ole Miss. And I agree with you. I think that they defensively still have some issues. They're sort of a paper tiger again. Shouldn't have beat Kentucky. When they go up against a defense like Kentucky, which they will see with A&M, with Alabama, with Arkansas to a certain extent. Let's see where they are. But, they've got themselves in a scenario here where they go to LSU and A&M back-to-back. And not only do I think you're right, I think they could lose at LSU, and that may end up being a night game if Ole Miss is undefeated at that point in time, and LSU can get a couple more wins under their belt. And they should have no problem with Vanderbilt and Auburn in the next 2 weeks. So that's a good call and a look-ahead spot for a late October game for an undefeated 7-0 Ole Miss team to have to go into LSU.
Oddly enough, we won't be redundant, but we both had the plays for Alabama. I think you and I agree with just the same caliber. If Georgia's going to be playing better football, the odds are that their odds will improve to win the SEC. And that means Alabama will be overlooked. They'll get plus money, and you get a live dog in Nick Saban, the Heisman Trophy winner, and Bryce Young. All of a sudden, they could be a real threat to the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Looking at that, we go more away from the SEC in particular, but we will highlight a couple of guys in the SEC. The Heisman Trophy race right now. And I bring this back to the National Football League because Jared and yourself were talking about a few days ago an interesting point that you guys had made about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was plus 1,000, I believe it was, to win the NFL MVP. And because your take on it was he needed to be all-world this year in order to go back to back to back. And we don't see that a lot in college football. You think about the days of Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. Obviously, Vince Young was in the heat as well. Peyton Manning, you all the way back. But you think about guys year in and year out. Tim Tebow, and frankly, he was so good at Florida. But that love, while he's up there, those repeat performances from a Heisman Trophy winner. Looking at the odds right now, because their offense has been so explosive, C.J. Stroud is the leader of the pack right now at minus 125. Are you biting on that, or are you looking somewhere else?
I mean, I told everybody, look, when C.J. Stroud was plus 350 at the beginning of the year, it was the only place to put your money because as soon as he threw a pass in anger this year, those odds were going to plummet, and they have. And I think he'll continue to be the odds-on favorite because Ohio State's offense is really, really good. The only place, again, I tend to see any value is with Caleb Williams at this point in time. As I mentioned with Hendon Hooker, guess what? Unless he beats Alabama or Georgia, he's always going to be on the outside looking in. He needs a signature win. He needs a big-time win under his belt to elevate his status in the Heisman race. Caleb Williams has the best shot of anybody, other than C.J. Stroud at Ohio State, to go undefeated, end up in their conference championship game, and end up in the college football playoff. I mean, it's that simple. And if he does that and continues to put up numbers at the rate that he's doing, he will be sitting on a stage at the Touchdown Club in New York City, hopefully having his name called. I think that's the best thing you can hope for at this point in time. You missed the boat on C.J. Stroud because his odds are on the wrong side of plus money, and Caleb Williams still sitting at 6-1 feels pretty good. Like Bryce Young and Caleb Williams being at this point through 5 weeks of college football seems almost unthought of when the season started, right? Like you wouldn't have thought that Bryce Young would have fallen or gotten up to as high as 6-1. Nor would anybody really have thought, and I'm not sure why, because Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley still had a really good offense at Oklahoma. Their defense just stunk. So it was never the problem. But when we look through the prism about Heisman Trophy winners, sometimes it's a team award as much as it is an individual award. So I think Caleb Williams has the best shot to be undefeated and be in the college football playoff, and that's enough to catapult him into being one of the top 3 Heisman finalists where he is right now.
We're not going to put a ticket on no touchdowns in any college football game like you guys did on Thursday night, or at least discuss that with the Broncos and the Colts. But Jahmyr Gibbs is an interesting animal in the sense that he's got 378 yards rushing, 207 receiving, and 5 total touchdowns. If Nick Saban wants to protect Bryce Young, does that help Gibbs' push for a Heisman Trophy?
Yeah, I mean, look, you saw what he did last week when he took that game over in the second half. He had 2 long runs that cemented a game, and Arkansas all of a sudden snuck their way back into when no one was looking. Arkansas plus 17.5 losers. Hey, raise your hand. Okay, just checking. So I think Jahmyr Gibbs isn't a bad outside play, but what's going to happen, as you said, is he's going to have to start to carry this team. And look, it's this week against A&M. It's next week. They got to go to Rocky Top. And then the week after that, guess what? They welcome Mississippi State to Bryant-Denny Stadium. That's the kind of game where when you see Will Rogers is going to be like maybe the all-time SEC passing leader when it's all said and done, you keep him on the sidelines because Jahmyr Gibbs is running through Mississippi State's defense. Guess what? Those are the kind of games that are signature games for a running back to be able to put a feather in their cap or put on their resume as far as winning the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be an interesting run down the dash, especially with conference play opening up. Well, that being said, fans, Let's Bet It presented by Superbook Sports. Go to superbook.com and download the app today. So if you like Mark's picks, you love Mark's picks, or even like Mark's Twitter account and TikTok account, this is the season. And all of us are rooting for safeties. That's because Superbook will give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. A safety, that's right. Just place a $100 pregame bet on any spread or total. And if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you get a $50 bonus. Visit superbook.com for terms and also conditions. That leads us, Mark, into our play of the day. There's a lot of things that we can chew on in college football. Some of them good, some of them bad. The Power Five, the MAC, the Mountain West Conference, maybe an independent. But your eyes were set on a couple teams, but they ran out west. Who are they?
Yeah, again, go to the Pickswise.com website. You can check out all the 3-star plays of the day. Mine is up there. We have a bunch of college football plays up there. Even an NHL play as hockey season is underway here. So, again, go to Pickswise.com. I have 5 write-ups on all the games that I do each week, so check them out there. One of the games I highlighted as a 3-star play was, coincidentally, your best bet of the day, so I'll wait for that here for a moment. But I'm going to turn to the Arizona Wildcats. You know, the Pac-12 has gotten very interesting over the last few weeks. Oregon recovers from their drubbing week 1 at the hands of Georgia. And their offense, led by Bo Nix, has scored 41 points in every game since. They look really good. Here's the problem for the Ducks. Their pass defense stinks. It's 119th in the nation, and that's not a very good matchup for an Arizona team that ranks 9th in passing yards per game, and Jaden Delora, the quarterback of the Wildcats, 5th in the nation in total passing yards. And the real bugaboo here is, David, it's Bo Nix and his home road splits. Still, doesn't matter what uniform he's wearing, he's much worse on the road than he is at home. Now, the Arizona defense is nothing to get excited about. Their run defense gives up 213 yards a game on the ground. We'll see if Oregon leans into that and tries to run this ball and keep the Arizona Wildcats off the field. When it's all said and done, though, this is just way too many points in a series that has gone sort of, haywire over the past couple of years between Arizona and Oregon. I don't need Oregon to win this game. I just need to cover this game, rather. I just need them to keep it close, and Arizona does that here in a spot where there's way too many points. Oregon is facing a look-ahead spot against UCLA next week, so I think they'll take Arizona probably lighter than they should. Arizona covers this 13.
You look ahead, and you think certain situations provide trap games. And for the Utah Utes, this is not a trap game, but this is a tough stretch for them. That's why this is my pick of the day. The UCLA Bruins at home against the Utah Utes. Both teams top 25 nationally ranked. The UCLA Bruins getting money, too. When I make a decision on a game like this, you look at the two teams side by side. Defenses are nearly even, 1 and 2 in the conference, respectively, in total yards against. Head coaches, you can make an argument there. Chip Kelly is a better coach in that situation. The difference maker, though, is what you had mentioned earlier with Cam Rising, how you felt he was a dark horse potentially for a Heisman Trophy. That being said, there's not enough in his game to provide dynamics that would match DTR. And I feel like in a situation like this where Charbonnet and Thomas are both equal on the ground, DTR is going to be the difference maker because of what he can do with his arm and with his feet. And oh, by the way, at times, I know you might push back, but at times the Rose Bowl can be a threatening place for the opposition. So with that being said, when you have UCLA coming to a ball game like this, you finally get the attention of a national audience, and locally in Los Angeles with a team that's 5-0, I'm going to take the UCLA Bruins getting money at home, 3 points. I will take them to win outright in this affair.
Love it. Love it. I mean, listen, I'm backing you here, brother. I mean, I'm with you. UCLA was my 3-star play on the website, so I feel everything you're putting down here. And again, I think it's a signature win for Chip Kelly, despite people watching it live or not. I think it's a really good spot for the Bruins.
Put you on a spotlight now. UCLA covers or wins today. Arizona covers today. What are we getting for TikTok next week? And don't tell me it's any kind of winning twerking going on, but let's at
No,
least tease
no.
us a little bit. What do we got?
Listen, I don't do much teasing on the internet. I saved my teasing for other places. That said, it will only be picks. Okay, I'm curious to see what that line would be between Oregon and UCLA next week, depending on what happens this week. I mean, off the top of my head, I would make that line that Oregon is probably laying 3.5 in the spot. But again, let's see how this week shakes out. But it'll be a tight number.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. College football week 6 today, the National Football League tomorrow, and then obviously Major League Baseball, the wild card matchups continue today and into the weekend as well. So for Mark Zinno, I'm David Gascon. Thanks for joining us today on Let's Bet. We'll catch you again tomorrow, and then Mark and I will chat again next week. But hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you again.